But this is a quick Ringo review. We're gonna do a Hema match here. It's hopefully tied you over. I know it's been a while since I've done one of these. Hopefully I start doing more. Anyway, let's get into it. We're just gonna watch straight through for the first one. Note they're playing at range. You're gonna see a thrust. Boom! And a very powerful slam. Now, we're going over this partially because it gets into grappling, but also because when this came out, this video, there was a huge uproar in the Hema community that this was too violent, that he was being overly aggressive and brutal, and that's not what sword fighting's about, which I think is kind of crazy because, we're playing with swords. We're actively pretending to kill each other. So, in addition to that, the move just doesn't work without the aggression. This is a perfectly legal move in this rule set. There were some communication problems I heard, and I don't know the exact details, but basically this Hema rule set was a little different than normal Hema rule sets, and this fighter that closest to us in the red belt did not was not aware of some of the changes, so there is a little bit to worry that he went in with some expectations of safety that might not have been there, and that is a problem. You can't have that, but that's why it's very important that before every event you read the rules, no matter what it is, SCA, HEMA, ACL, boffer, whatever you're doing, make sure there haven't been rule changes before you go fight. Anyway, let's get into why this requires the speed. So we're going to walk through once slow-mo. So note when he threw that shot, there's a block and he pushes him up. So as the blue comes in, pushes the sword up, and that gives red, brings red's shoulders up, gets his base too high, so he's not going to be able to defend. But as the grab is started, red's going to throw two pommel strikes right here. Ooh, right here. So I'm going to start using red for him in the future. So boom, there's one, two, and then the slam. So none of those really have power, and part of the reason they don't have power is because he's being jacked so hard as he goes down. One of the other things that happens here is that the way that he's committed to it, he's prevented himself from taking any damage. And if this were a real fight, that last drop takes all the breath out of him, and as you can see, throws the sword away. You can't count on that, but it at least takes the breath out of him so that he would be able to finish the fight or easily control the sword. Now, there's some stuff that people would talk about, like why does he throw his sword away? Well, as we see this initial entrance, red actually steals the center line. So red's blade is going to come here, and blue's blade is going to come here. You'll see, red now is on the inside of blue. Blue's trying to stick up through there, and he's missed red's head. So blue also manages to miss his thrust. It looks like red catches it on his keons. I mean, red's missed his thrust, blue's caught it on his keons. But because he has the inside line, he could come back in and slash. There he could probably cut through down here, cut through the shoulder, or come back around. Ooh, I don't want that. He could come back around and easily make a shot before blue would be able to put a guard in. Before blue could put a guard in here, because red is already on the right side. Admittedly, blue can do the same thing, but if they both go for offense here, they both die, and that's bad. So if they both go for bladed offense. So blue's counter is he's going to attack with his the hand that's he's going to let go with his left hand and place it on red's blade right here. And you can see blue's blade stays on the inside here. And this is why he has to let go. as he's leveraging up on Red's blade, it's actually pushing his blade out of the way. Now, it's possible he could re-grab up here and bring his sword down to about there-ish, where he'd be able to pin him, maybe try slicing across, do some half-swording stuff. It's a little dangerous. He could also try and make an attack on the wrists and pull it out of his hands. There's options here. But he could also, if this were in a Hema tournament, just kick Red in the nuts. But it is a Hema tournament, so you can't do that. I'm pretty sure he couldn't either try a foot sweep or anything else using the legs, which is sad, because it'd be another perfect time for that. So instead, he's putting too much pressure on his blade. He can't really do anything. So he's going to let go of it and immediately drop for this grab. He's already pushed Red's body vertical, right? See? Red, and as Red is trying to fight against, he's standing up. Basically does the exact wrong thing, because there's no more pressure on his blade, and it stands up into it as Blue drops weight, changes levels, gets that waist grab. Now, from here, Red might have been able to base out, right? If he drops that foot back this way, drops his body forward, and then grabs his head, he could probably base out and then work. But instead, he just goes for the pommel strike. Tries a little underhook here, an overhook here. Not a great action. And you can see he's too high up, so he's not going to be able to defend himself, lift it in the air. Now, because he's up in the air, he's not going to get much power on this. If you were able to get a lot of power, it should have been able to do something through the mask. And that's part of what I talk about, why violence matters. The violent attack from Blue, the speed at which he executes this, the power at which he throws this, prevents Red from doing anything. If Red put the same speed and power into this strike, then Blue's mask probably would have crumpled in. He'd probably be bleeding at the face, and he might not be able to land this throw as powerfully. Part of the reason he can't is because his feet are in the air, preventing him from generating a lot of power. But still, this hesitation to throw with everything you have, that kind of robbed him here. You don't need to, if you're striking with a blade, you don't need to strike through very hard. A blade will cut through human skin easily, but he's not striking with the blade. That's a pommel. So that's 1. 2 is going to be even worse because he's being torqued. Now, there is an argument right here that Blue does not need to pull his feet back and drop his weight. This I'm not sure whether that was necessary. If he just lets go right now, Red's going to go falling this way. He'll get whatever points they have. He wins this round, or however wins this pass, I guess. Instead, this foot is going to come back, and this foot's going to come up. Right, and see, boom. And that's dropping all his weight into him, into Red. Blue doesn't need to do that. There's no need to drop that. But it's possible that Red could have saved this. Now, note Red's free hand here. If this hand were to come under, if he has great grappling experience, he probably can't get that leg. But if he could try and turn this into a roll. Alternatively, if he comes for underhook here, he might be able to, again, grab and turn it into some sort of roll. These are be very hard. It's very unlikely with a throw like that you're going to get that power. But in a grappling tournament, that's exactly what you'd expect. Your opponent to, after he's in midair, to somehow be reaching for a counter. Because of that, you want to follow in with your body. By staying close, he gets his legs out of the way. And by staying close chest to chest, he prevents Red from being able to pull his momentum anyway, and prevents Red from pulling his momentum this way, redirecting his momentum. Blue's the one controlling the momentum the whole way through. So by landing with that chest-to-chest land, he's able to make sure he is in control the whole way down. And once he lands, again, if this weren't tournament fighting, if this were real fighting, by landing here in control, he's ready to start dealing damage while red would still be trying to breathe. If you didn't successfully knock the wind out of someone, you want to have this control. Admittedly, blue did successfully knock the wind out of him, so he wouldn't have needed this control. He probably could have just stomped on red's face. But you can't count on that. So this is the perfect technique, exactly what you would want to do if it were done out of the manuals, if it were done realistically. There's a bunch of talk about when you go for a throw, you land with the person, possibly with your knee in their gut or on their balls. So while it's true this was overly, the contact in this was a bit more overt than Hema's used to, I feel like it's pretty clear that it was necessary. If he's less committed in this initial strike, red can easily get his feet back under him and then land this strike. If he's less committed on this turn, again, red could turn this around and maybe make a draw cut on the back of his neck. If he's less committed on this drop, he could possibly get a grab here, or maybe keep control of his weapon and stab him. So, at each point in this, when he could have pulled away, by not pulling away, he kept control and was able to execute the throw. If he were to have pulled himself back, it's unclear that he would have been able to do that. So I basically just think this is a good exercise in understanding why violence and aggression is very important in these sports, and why when we try and pull it out, we lose something. Which isn't to say we shouldn't do that in sparring, which isn't to say that we shouldn't do that in tournaments, which isn't to say that there's only a place for brutal aggression and smashing of people's faces. It's just to say that there's a place for both of these things, and we really need to make sure that we're not losing the violence of the sword play when trying to find the perfection of form. Obviously, I'm a little on one side, as I play more ACL than Hema. But when I do play Hema, I do tend to try and focus on my technique, focus on what the book says. So I'm not deaf to those concerns. We should have that. You gotta have the other part too. All right, this ran way longer than I was wanting, so I'm just gonna put it up. Peace out. Hopefully you see more armored fighting in my next one. Peace.